about you and Level 9.
I consider myself an underground entrepreneur, basically meaning that I build businesses kind of under the radar. I'm not huge into social media, though my team makes me do video and put that stuff out there. Level 9 Virtual is a virtual assistant services company. I started using virtual assistants back in November of 2008, and that's when I hired my first. And ever since that day, I've had at least one, but typically a team supporting and helping me operate my companies. And so it's been a very long time going. One of my VAs at the time actually asked me to start the virtual assistant company and start providing the service, because we used to just help our clients for free and not charge anything. And then we realized that, hey, there's actually an opportunity to build a business out of this. Over the years, it's just, grown and grown, and it's been a good experience.
Well, I think what fascinates me most is your commitment to building a business around your lifestyle. It's usually the other way around. Can you talk a little bit about your philosophy and how you've managed to implement that into your own life and businesses?
The origin of using virtual assistants came from reading The 4-Hour Workweek. I used Tim Ferriss's philosophy of outsourcing as much as you can and getting your time back. And I did that for a number of years, had an e-commerce business, it went really well. All of that was great. Then I kind of fell into the trap of building a business local with local staff, with a big, fancy, expensive office with glass doors and walls. And it ended up failing. And it was failing because of cash flow reasons and so forth. And I realized, how did I go as the outsource guy to having a full staff of 27 employees in the US? That doesn't make any sense. And so I basically cut the whole thing off, started from zero, rebuilt an entire business over the course of about another 30 days, launched with just a small team of virtual assistants, went from zero to 100 grand a month in 4 months, and then doubled the next 4 months. And so we were able to really actually figure out a model that scaled. But what I understood during the time when I had my full scale business with all of the employees was that it was very expensive. There was a lot of time involved just in the staff side and everything that we were doing locally. We were not niched down, and it took me away from my family quite a bit. I always said that I would never miss a single thing for my kids, and it started to become very difficult to hold that promise. And so I was giving up a lot of work to be able to be there for the kids and everything that they were doing. And so it was a perfect timing when everything kind of cut off, and I said, okay, that doesn't work. I need to start focusing on how do I want my life to be? And then the business has to fit inside that. And if it doesn't fit inside that, then we have to say no. That became the value of what I looked at most and focused on most, was how do I create the ideal lifestyle that's best for my wife, my kids, so that then we also could build a business that produces the resources that we need so that we can live the life that we keep saying we want. That was how it originated.
Well, you know what I love most about what you said, and a lot of people won't do this, but you said that your business failed. Essentially, I failed. Well, you didn't fail. You learned, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And that's, it didn't stop you. You didn't go back home and move into your mama's basement and be like, it didn't work. You learned from it.
Right.
Relearned, right? Because you knew already. That model was what worked for you, and then you just you had to go through that experience, and it made you all the better for it. Now, let's talk a little bit about Level 9. What's the primary problem that Level 9 typically solves? Now, you touched on it a little bit, but let's just make it super clear for the audience.
The biggest thing that we support businesses with, our core focus is really around marketing, kind of that general sense in most businesses. But what we're solving is the fact that the average small business doesn't have excess cash to invest in human labor. That's one of the biggest challenges. And so around the marketing, I stuck with marketing for the most part because that's my background. That's kind of what I've always done. I own an agency. The marketing side of it is really, really specialized. One of the challenges is if you have a local business and you say, hey, I need to hire somebody to do something specialized, well, that has a pretty significant price tag to it. So that's one thing. But hold on, I need this other thing done over here, still within marketing, but a totally different scope. Web development, graphic design, video editing, database management, marketing automation, cold email outreach. Whatever those things are, those are individual people. Finding somebody who does all of it is next to impossible, but it's gonna cost an enormous amount of money for most small businesses. What we provide is we provide the opportunity to actually have specialized service, but go piece by piece and say, hey, I need somebody who can run Facebook ads. I need somebody else who can do some graphic design. Our clients can either hire individual people who have those specializations at a fraction of the cost of what it what it would take to hire somebody local, or they can do things on a project basis where they say, hey, I just need a whole bunch of things off my plate. We've got some graphic design tasks to get done. We need it video edited. We need database reactivation created. I need somebody to build a funnel. I need somebody to update our website. All of these things can be done by them just buying a block of hours. And that's it. And they buy a block of hours. We have specialists who do all of these things. And then it becomes just a project-based service. And so that is really the crux of what we offer.
Okay. Let's shift gears and talk a little bit more about you, because you've had a very unique entrepreneurial journey. You talked a little bit about some of your obstacles, but what are some of the major obstacles and things you have faced along that journey to get where you are now? Because I have to admit, you got a smile on your face. You've kind of figured out that method, that work-life balance, aspect. But what are some of those major obstacles that it took to get to where you are now? What
I think is one of my kind of talents or one of my gifts is the ability to fail very fast. And so there's a lot of people who talk about failing fast, and it's one of the methodologies that I live my life by. I think that I can fail 2 to 3 times before most people start. So when I'm trying to figure out, is this new service offer going to work within our business, I'll test it 7 times before everybody else figures out what the funnel's going to look like and how they want to try to, well, how are we going to offer this? And I'm like, no, we're going to offer it. We're in the process right now. We just launched a new business, completely separate, launched a new business, and we just went out and started asking clients, started asking people that we connected with, hey, here's what we're going to offer. Would you buy it? And when they say yes, we go, okay, well, great. So give me your credit card and let's do it now. We immediately end up with either, no, that's a bad idea. No, I'm not interested in that. No, the price point's wrong. Oh, that's way too easy and the price point was too low. And we find all these little failures. All of those things compound, and they've been my obstacles, call it. My biggest hurdle is always too many opportunities, right? Even within your own business, there's always these opportunities that I can try this other thing over here and do it a little different. The shiny object syndrome, right? Those things become major, major obstacles because you don't just go, hey, I'm going to focus, execute the basics, execute how my business should be operating, and then do things right that way. There's always something else that you could go do. I kind of thrive in some of that, but that's also a challenge at home. So my wife gets to go, okay, great, another idea? Like, well, what about the other one you told me about last week? Like, what's that? And so I can catch myself where I put out a lot of energy into a lot of different things, and then that comes tumbling down and I'm not executing on the simple things. So that's probably one of my biggest hurdles, is that the lack of linear focus and being able to stay very, very on target. I can do that for a stretch period of time, but then I can get myself distracted. So that's a big hurdle for me.
But I also think that that's what makes so many entrepreneurs, or most entrepreneurs, successful, because they aren't afraid to fail fast. They just go after it. And they might throw, 30 pieces of spaghetti to the fridge and maybe only 2 of them stick.
Yeah.
But the ones that stick end up, making up for everything they spent to get where they are.
For sure.
So that's super awesome.
Yeah.
There are also things that happen to all of us along our journeys that really impact our behaviors and kind of shift our mindsets and our perspectives. You talked a little bit about some of the things that have shifted your mindset, but what are some personal stories that you have? Something that's like, you know what, I no longer feel that way, or I'm going to change how I go about doing things.
Okay, so one area is I'm a night owl and I can stay up super late at night, and it would affect my relationship with my wife, obviously, because I could get on a run and go, hey, for the next 5 days, I'm up all night long and I'm working on projects and I'm doing things and all that, and that affects my home relationship. Then if I'm tired, then it affects how I interact with my children. I could step back and realize that some of those small decisions carry over into every aspect of life. They carry into my children and my wife, and then they carry into business. And how do I interact with my team? Well, then how do I interact with clients if I'm speaking with a client? And all of a sudden I start to realize that some of these kind of dumb things where I say, hey, I'm going to go on a bender and I'm going to go all these nights in a row and stay up super late and work on projects, they don't benefit anybody except maybe my own ego of doing these things. So I kind of drew a line in the sand that said, hey, when I hit this certain time of day, phone's down. One thing that I did was I actually got rid of my Apple Watch. So I no longer have notifications pinging, because I'd be everywhere and you're getting notifications and everybody can do their thing. But for me, I was like, hold on, but it's still drawing my focus away from the things that are most important. So for me, it's been drawing a line in the sand and realizing what is most valuable and what deserves my attention at what time. Every business problem is going to be there hours later. If I'm putting out a fire, I got to realize that it's already hot. It's already burning. It's not going to get worse. And so I can just wait until the morning and deal with it in the morning. For me, like my personal...
Or create more fires.
Yeah, well...
Or you create more fires, essentially, right? If you
could be.
Promises to your family, or
for sure.
Creating more fires for
that,
the sake of one fire.
That's right. That's a great way to look at it. And, and it doesn't even necessarily turn into a big, huge fire at home, but it's those little teeny tiny things that, one of my kids isn't listening to me. It's like, well, why? It's like, well, I don't know, because I didn't listen to her. Oh, wow. My wife's like, she's got a little bit of, an attitude today. What did I do? And really, I get it. I wasn't even paying attention, And so that's been a huge, huge thing for me, is to be able to set my phone down, not pay attention to it. Honestly, for me personally, getting rid of the Apple Watch, I know this is stupid, but like I have no notifications. After 5 p.m., I don't see anything. This is like the first time ever. And so it's very, very different. And this just started like a month ago. So this is brand new to me, but this is a big one.
Great segue into kind of talking a little bit more about work-life balance. And I think it's Gary Vee that has a bunch of stuff out there now that's like, no, entrepreneurs are wrong. We don't have to work those 80-hour weeks. Like, you're starting to see some of these big guys like really shift focus. And you mentioned the 4-hour work week and kind of, how that shifted your mindset. But is that really the core of your work-life balance, is just saying, you know what, hey, I'm going to take that watch off and at 5 o'clock I'm shutting it down. Like, talk a little bit about your work-life balance and how you're fitting it into, your life.
So my work-life balance is based around using systems and processes to give me freedom. And that is virtual assistants, staff. When we moved to Montana, it was a huge transition. It was very big on the kids. It was very big on my wife. I was all for it. I'm like, hey, we live at the base of a mountain range. Like, this is going to be the best. But it was a transition for our family. And so one of the things that I kind of devoted to do was not work for the most part for a year. I put teams in place and I put processes in place so that I could literally remove myself 100% from my companies and they would operate. And what I found is that actually, guess what? They do better without me. So that created this balance. And I realized, okay, hold on a second here. I don't have to be around for growth. I can be the visionary, which is what I want to be. And we have operators who actually run the company. And that by itself, using virtual assistants, creating good processes, and allowing the business to operate the way it's supposed to run. The owner, the CEO, whatever, they don't need to be operators. My job is to say, hey, I want the company to go this direction and I want us to grow at this pace. Okay, everybody, let's go do it. So now what is work-life balance? Well, I get to do podcasts whenever I want because my team's running my companies. And, we get to start a new company and I get to have some interest in that without hurting the other businesses that I have going. Again, I'm building it around the freedom that I want. So I want to be able to be at every single thing my kids do. My sister's in town visiting. We're going to Yellowstone tomorrow to go show her Yellowstone National Park. I'm not working.
I was just going to ask you about Yellowstone.
Not the show. I'm talking about the national park. Everybody's talking about, that's why I had to say the national park. We're going to the national park to go see wildlife and but it's a Thursday. We'll be gone all day. There's literally no cell reception inside Yellowstone National Park at all. So we can't work. So that's it. That kind of stuff is super exciting to me. There's my balance. And it all started with building processes, putting the team in place.
Well, something you said that's super important, and I hope that the young entrepreneurs listening can really hear it, is you said that you were able to put your attention on something new without impacting something that's existing, right? And that's so important because so many entrepreneurs make the mistake of trying to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 10 businesses at a time, but they're actively working inside each of those businesses. So when they pull their attention, to the left, the right is suffering.
100%.
You have built you've built it that you can step in when you want to, right?
Yeah.
You can step in when you're, you look at numbers and they're not moving in the direction, or you want to try something new, but you don't have to be there, which gives you the freedom to keep moving forward, which inevitably is not just good for your family and yourself, but it's also good for, your existing employees, right?
100%.
The better you are as a business owner, the more successful you are as an entrepreneur, the more ability that you have to create growth opportunities for the people around you as well.
I agree with this 100%. Perfect example of this, over the past year, we had some staff turnover that was detrimental. These are big players that I've come to realize, one of my failures was not recognizing where their growth needed to go and doing a poor job by trying to shove that person into a role that wasn't right for them. And in doing so, push them away, create a vacancy. That becomes the next problem. And so here I come and I have to step back into the business. We have to reevaluate, realize that, this was my professional development challenge that I did not allow somebody to develop where they needed to go. So I did a poor job as a leader in allowing that person to go where they should have been. And instead I tried to force my will where I thought that I wanted them, and it ended up imploding. And so we rebuilt and we put new people in place and hired, some new staff and kind of changed some of the roles, and all of a sudden smooth sailing. And now Joe steps out of the picture. I'm not involved in it anymore, and I can go focus on other things. But like I said, when you asked about some of the hurdles, my hurdle is I can have a million ideas and run at the same time. And I'm really, really good at getting a lot done really fast because I'm good at delegating. But if I don't have processes in place and I don't have the right staff in place, then I create implosion in all of these different, and basically all I do is I start a bunch of fires and keep moving around in circles. And that's not valuable for anybody. But like you said, as soon as you put processes in place and you let people grow and develop in roles, they help mold the company and they help mold their professional growth and their opportunities. And that gives me the freedom to go do the things that I want to do, which is find a new business, go invest in a new piece of real estate, go do a new development project, all that.
So we're both marketers, and Level 9 is primarily in the digital space. So I have to ask, talk a little bit about how AI has impacted you and how you've utilized it.
Yeah, so we immediately when I saw it come out, I think the week, for example, like OpenAI, when ChatGPT launched, the first day that I saw it was live, I was in it. And I'm like, I gotta obsess over this and figure this out. And the same thing that we've done with everything else. I started running Facebook ads, I think it was the second week after Facebook ads went live. And so I've been in that and I went through it and I've taken everybody's training and learned how everybody uses it. And I've tried to do as much of that as I possibly can. All I do is I take my staff and I say, hey, you have to learn how to use AI in order to execute your role. You need to figure out how to use AI that's gonna benefit our clients. You need to go figure this out, right? So everybody is paid to go do it. It's part of what they need to, it's their role. Everybody has to figure out how this is going to affect them internally. Then we can come together. We can say, hey, what does this look like in the HR division? What does this look like in our projects on demand service? What does this look like for dedicated VAs? We should also be looking at hiring, prompt engineers, people who do nothing but understand how prompts work. How do we create personas inside this? So we buy everybody's training, and there's guys out there who are doing way more than we can faster because they're complete nerds about it. And I'm like, great, you developed it, let me bring it in. I'll give it to my team, let them execute on it. So I'm super bullish on it on one side. On the other side, I realize that it could be a challenge to a lot of people's careers. Some of our services may decline. For example, we have a copywriting service. We've been using AI in copywriting since Jasper, before that what was it before? It was a different name before that. We were using AI copywriting to write copy for a long time. Jarvis, that's what it was. That's right. And then they got sued by Disney. But so we were using that from when they first launched. I was one of the beta buyers, and we've been using it the whole time. And now it's like, now it's just cheaper, and now it's just more accessible. And now guess what? Jasper's better. And now, and there's all these benefits to it. And even with AI, most people, our clients in the marketing world, they still don't know how to use it. The output of AI is based on the input you give it. Most people don't know what to say. Now, as marketers, we're getting better and better, and more people are building prompt libraries and all these things, and we're going to utilize those. But I bet you the average plumber or contractor or chiropractor, they're not spending their time doing that. So we're always in business because we have the input. So we can generate the result because we know what to put in.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is we as marketers, as agencies, you have the ability to test it and test it over and over and over again until you get it right. It's one of those things that if you put garbage in, it's garbage out. It's only as good as, as the people utilize it. Look at it as replacing anyone's job, because you're going to need people that are going to need to master this technology. But the way that I see it especially when we're talking about content creation, it is a bot that is designed to write content that is relevant for another bot. I think this tech that's coming in the board is actually going to allow people to have a product and, actual output that is not only feasible from a financial, investment standpoint, but it's going to be quality because it's designed to be that way, and it's going to happen quickly because, again, there's automation that makes it happen. Why would we not want to take advantage of that?
I agree. And I there's just going to be people who are, everybody's afraid of change. It's so funny. It's like it's the only constant in this universe is change, but yet people fear it, and AI is a huge changing, thing. Like we're sitting last night at my sister's house having a barbecue, and my daughter brings over a piece of a plant. We have no idea what it is. My sister goes, oh, hey, take a picture of it. And did you know that your iPhone will literally you can click a button, it'll tell you what plant that is. And I know there's apps that do it, but I had no idea that your foot, and it was like, that's freaking amazing. It just took a picture. So then I look it up and I'm going through I'm scrolling and I'm like, okay, this is a project, we have a rental house that we're doing some development on, and there's pictures from that. Will that pull up? And there's a picture of my dog, and that one does pull up and say dog. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, some of this stuff is so incredible. Some people are fearing the change. They're fearing all of this technology. It's here no matter what. So the way I look at it is our role in this time in life is to figure out how to use it to maximize our own output so that we can then receive, the reward of all of our efforts. It's going to make things easier. It's going to make things different. It's going to change how we do business. But all in all, our job is to figure out how to leverage this technology to create results. That's it.
Love your mindset. I truly, truly do. It's such a breath of fresh air to hear an entrepreneur who not only cares about their clients and their family and their employees, but really who wants to build something great for everybody that they impact. How do you approach failure and setbacks, particularly in the volatile world of entrepreneurship? And you talked a little bit about, failing and learning from that and just going after it, but what's kind of your main approach to those setbacks that entrepreneurs face?
So this has been an evolving thing. I was a very studious kid. So failure was tough because you fail in school and that's bad. So it was really, really difficult. When I became an entrepreneur and I started to experience failures, it really, really beat me down. And I would go through just negative spirals really bad, and where I'd be depressed and it's like, oh my gosh. And then when you learn how important the failures are, and it just became part of who I am now, that every failure is an opportunity. One of the things that I learned, and I can't remember who it is, it's a systems theorist who has a phrase that he says, chaos always precedes calmness. So every system in the universe, whether it's a business or whether it's a weather pattern or whether anything, there will always be chaos before there's breakthrough. And so every time that I have a failure and something isn't working out, or all hell breaks loose in the business and you're like, what in the world is going on? All I remember is that I'm almost to something. I don't know what the something is yet, but nothing has chaos unless there's something on the other side of it. There's a breakthrough. Understanding that and being able to live every minute of my life with that has been unbelievable. When my kids are terrorizing the house and all things are going nuts, I have to realize they're gonna get to something where they're gonna learn a lesson, things are gonna calm down, there's a breakthrough, something's coming. And maybe it's that I'm gonna understand patience a little bit better, or I'm gonna have a word of wisdom that I can communicate with my kids and all of a sudden snap, something positive comes out of it. Somebody's gonna have a breakthrough. Maybe it's my wife, right? There's gonna be something that's gonna come out of it. And so every failure in the business, in my personal life and everything else is literally one step closer to that breakthrough, that positive outcome that happens after every chaos. Nobody fails and fails and fails and doesn't eventually land on something. You always land somewhere, and if you want to just play the law of averages, if you go get a bunch of no's, somebody's going to say yes. All you have to do is just continue to iterate and iterate. And so that's kind of the mentality that I've developed. It's benefited me really, really well. I think it's something that really sets me apart from hopefully other people, that, we can create success because we're okay with failing. And it's something I'm really, really learning and trying to instill in my kids, is understanding that it's okay to do something wrong. It's okay to fail. It's okay for something not to work out. There's an outcome on the other side of it.
I think what you just said about, being able to recognize that there's calmness on the other side of that chaos. I think that, really is one great tip that entrepreneurs need to kind of take and run home with. But what are a couple of other pieces of advice that you, from your experience, would give to the young entrepreneur out there that's getting ready to get started?
So for a young entrepreneur that's just getting going, the one thing that I would, actually, here's a great one. And I said this in another podcast interview I was on that I think is monumental. Don't go spend your money. Like, be smart with your money. And I'm not saying invest every dollar back into your business, because that's actually not smart either. You need to take some, as you start to just earn some money and things start to work out and go positive for you, take some of that money, invest it somewhere. We could get into 1,000 investment ideas. Put it somewhere that it's going to continue to compound and grow on its own, and you can't touch it. I tell you, the amount of businesses that I've been involved in and started in and everything else, if I had understood, take something out of the game and go put it somewhere that it will compound, I'd be worth 10 times more than I am today. And I'm frustrated that I didn't know that, but that's financial intelligence at work, right? So that would be one thing, is be smart with your money. Never buy a watch. Don't buy a car. Like, be broke. Like, live broke until you actually have more money than you know what to do with. So that would be the first thing. The second thing I would say is doing something is better than trying to perfect nothing. So what I mean by that is getting going. Every time that we come up with a new offer, we come up with a new business idea, we're going to haul ass and try to get it done as fast as we can so that we could just start asking people for money. We have to see if it's going to work and try. We are not going to go build a website that's fancy and looks perfect and all this. We're not going to perfect our copywriting and our email marketing and all of those things. We're not perfecting anything. We are going to make some money so that we could take that money and then turn around and say, hey, build an awesome website. But the awesome website was built because somebody gave us money for the thing that we think is worth money. And now all of a sudden we go, okay, we really actually have resources. This is a real thing. Let's keep moving. Or if it fails, you can come back to the drawing board and say, hey, is this something that's viable to move forward? Do we need to add more resources to it? What does it take to get somebody to say yes to it? But do not go try to perfect everything before you even collect, income from customers. I've seen so many people try to build something beautiful to find out that it's completely a flop. And it's like, you could have tried 10 widgets or services to sell, but instead you spent all that time trying to perfect everything and make it look perfect so that when you presented it, the world thought it looked good. And the fact is, nobody wanted it. And so I say, go get a bunch of yeses, go get a bunch of nos, go get people telling you to screw off, go find out whether there's viability before you go invest anything into the beautification of your business. So there's two pieces.
I absolutely love that. There's so much resources that goes into, launching a new product. And the hard part about that is if you haven't already sold it and you don't already have people taking advantage of it, you have no way of knowing if that product is actually going to flow well with everything else that you're doing.
Right.
I really appreciate you being with us today, Joe.
Absolutely.
On and on and on.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love your energy. I love your mindset. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can have you on our podcast again in the future.
Absolutely.
As we continue to navigate the new world and all of these changes. But I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.